Hello, hello,
Hello, hello, hello.
hello.
All right. So I
Hi.
guess we should probably start, shouldn't we?
We should probably start.
This is Bearly Furcasting featuring Taebyn, an Injured Nerves audio production. So welcome to Bearly Furcasting featuring Taebyn.
Bark, bark.
Hey, look at that, he barked. Or listen
Hi.
to that, he barked. I am Barely Normal, and you are?
Hi, my name is Taebyn. I am a pup. Bark, bark.
What does bark bark mean?
Well, I think it can have several different meanings depending on the context. So sometimes when I run around in the forest and stuff, and there's all these trees, everywhere I look, there's bark, bark.
That's the first joke of the day.
Something of the day. I don't even know.
So let's jump right in and find out, has the tail been caught?
Oh, it's getting so close. So I did that thing that, if you remember last week, we talked about Furs had sent some advice videos and everything of other doggies running around. And so we were thinking that maybe doing the clockwise thing might work. So I tried that in kind of conjunction with counterclockwise to see if I, play the field, see how it would go. Clockwise actually, honestly, got me a little bit closer.
Wow.
It's still like he's right there. He being tail, of course.
The tail,
He's
yes.
right there, and it's like, oh, he's so close. But then the fluff just fluffs away, and I can't. So then I keep going, but I don't know. Maybe I was thinking maybe I'll try mixing it up a little bit, and I'll chase tail clockwise, but in a figure eight. Some furs would argue that, like, well, if you're in a figure eight, you can do it both ways, and they don't necessarily talk like this, but I'm talking like this now for whatever reason. But they're, I mean, if you the figure eight, the top, if you start going clockwise, then the bottom part of the eight, you're going counterclockwise. So when I mean clockwise figure eight, I mean start going clockwise. And then maybe the fluff will be got.
Maybe you should try it on a Mobius strip loop tracing.
Ooh. Dun, dun, dun. For you one listener that wants to know more about Mobius strip, just check out my video on YouTube. Plug self, plug self. My video on YouTube about Mobius strips and Klein bottles. And you don't need to know a lot of math or anything. I explained it, I think, in a pretty intuitive way, I guess. Maybe on a Mobius strip. I should try that.
Wow. I wonder.
So many good ideas here.
So many good ideas. So many good ideas. So today we have on our show Cassidy Civet.
Oh, yes. That's so exciting.
He's a Canadian fur from Canada.
Canadian fur from Canada? Really? He's not a Canadian fur from like Czechoslovakia or anything, right?
I don't even know that exists anymore.
Oh, so he cannot be a Canadian fur from Czechoslovakia.
Yeah, I don't think that exists anymore. But I guess, who knows? Who knows?
Who knows?
But anyway, I see that he's in our waiting room, so I'm going to call him up and we'll get started with Cassidy. We're here now with Cassidy Civet. Cassidy, welcome to our podcast.
Hello. Thanks for having me so much, Bearly.
Well, it's so good to hear you and everything once again, Cassidy. How's your day been?
My day's been pretty good. It's my mom's birthday today, so that's kind of exciting. And I'm about to hit 7K on TikTok, so it's a pretty good day right now.
That's exciting.
Before we go into the questions, I actually discovered a fun fact that I wanted to share with you specifically, Taebyn. And I think I alluded to this to Bearly before, but I didn't say what it was. But I thought you might find it interesting. My first American con was FC 2019. And so that meant that you were the first American fursuiter that I ever saw at a con in the US, because we were there on the Wednesday night in 2019. So you were the first American fursuiter that I saw.
Well, I feel special and humbled. And lucky at the same time. You just have to be in the right place at the right time, and wonderful, amazing things like that happen. Well, that's a wonderful piece of trivia. Thank you, Cassidy.
Yeah, I thought you might like that.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, so actually, speaking of that, how long have you actually been a part of the fandom?
Ooh, I've been getting asked that question a lot lately, and I don't know if the answer is getting any easier, because I generally like to say that I made my first online furry account in 2012. I lurked until 2016 when I first went to my first con. On TikTok and some platforms, people don't like to say you're a furry until they have a suit. So then I say I got my suit then in 2019. So it's not even a year old yet. So 2012, 2016, 2019 are the benchmarks.
Okay, good, cool. Yeah, those are pretty nice benchmarks, as a matter of fact. So your first con was then in Canada, obviously, just from putting the pieces together from the tidbit you just told me.
Yeah, first con, you probably stick close to home when it comes to the first con. So 2016 was Vancouver was my first con.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah. Which actually answers that question. What was the first con? And that was the first con. Okay. Was it pretty small back then?
Yeah, it hadn't yet broken 1,000. It only just did. So it was still quite small. And having been to a few American cons at this point, I would, like, if I had to categorize a con as big or small, I would still put Vancouver in the small category.
Small cons are fun, though. So that's cool. I haven't been yet. Someday I'll get there. But, well, these days, who knows when that might be. But
that could be in 6 years at this way.
Could be.
I think Vancouver was also the one this year in 2020 was the last con to happen before everything shut down, because Vancouver was on like March 7th. And the next one, I think, was Vernal Equinox, which was the weekend or so after. And that got canceled. So I think Vancouver was the last con before everything just started getting canceled.
Okay, yeah. So I made it to the second to the last con before everything, right? Because I went to TFF.
Yeah, you and me both.
You were there too. Yeah, we were both there. So you are a singer and performer outside of the fandom, right?
In and outside of the fandom.
In and outside. That's right. In and outside. All over. So tell us a little bit about that. For example, what types of performances do you do and have you done and so forth?
Well, inside the fandom, I am a musician. I'm a performer. I'm very comfortable on stage doing pretty much anything. Mostly music, though. I've done occasional acting for like an opening ceremonies or two here and there. But mostly it's because I'm really comfortable behind a mic. So I do a lot of hosting or judging. But musician stuff is where I tend to perform mostly, I guess. Like I've done more music performances than I've done hosting or judging. But I do a lot. And then outside of the fandom, I am a movie extra. So I perform on screen and TV and shows and stuff like that. Not an actor. I don't have lines necessarily, but I have appeared and my suit has appeared once, and that's coming at some point, but I don't know when. There's no release date yet, but I've been in a movie with my suit.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty cool. That's exciting. Do you have something you can tell us we should be looking for?
I am pretty sure I can say the name of it, which was Babysitter's Guide to Monster Hunting. It's a Netflix movie.
Okay.
Not going to say any plot stuff, and there's no release date. When it drops, it'll be on Netflix, and then I'm sure someone will clip the part of me in the movie in my suit and then post it on Twitter asking, who is this suitor?
Pros and cons to that, right?
It just happened, too, because I appeared
really?
in Eurovision. I tweeted about it because that was like the big music festival, and Popular Fur, Tamarin Lion, tweeted, who is this suitor? And luckily I had a friend that replied and tagged me, and then I commented, I said something similar to this. I was like, I'm going to be in a movie at some point later this year, so you guys got to learn my name, come on. And then the suitor deleted the tweet.
Oh, jeez.
Wow. Deleted the whole tweet.
Just delete the whole thing. So you recently, that's right, you recently appeared on that you said Eurovision, is that what it's called? And what exactly was that? I don't know too much about that.
Eurovision is a European song competition, basically. It's been on for over 60 years. This was the first year it has ever been canceled. It was initially started as a way to unite Europe after the Second World War, but after obviously it's become like a whole thing, spectacle, and now it's had its first fursuit ever in over 60 years, and it made the internet explode.
Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah, I didn't know it was that old. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
So wait a minute. Wait. I read something that you were representing Czechoslovakia or Slovenia as a fursuiter. I don't.
You're 2/3 right. 2/3 in that Czechoslovakia does not exist anymore, but the Czech Republic was one of the two. It was Czech Republic and or Czechia and Slovenia. They actually legally changed their name to Czechia, but really? They haven't used it anywhere. Like they changed it back in 2016, and I watched the Olympics, so I was like, "Ooh, I wonder if they're going to use it in the Olympics," and they didn't. So they haven't used it anywhere yet, but it is the official name.
Okay,
it's coming. Country rebranding. I didn't get to pick which countries either. I danced to the entire like 40 country song clip, and that's what they picked. They picked the Czech Republic and they picked Slovenia.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Well, that's an interesting thing for them to pick, but I'm glad they did because now I know more about Czechia and different words for those things. So when was your first recording session?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think my first recording session was in early 2016 at my dad's friend's studio. And I say that, and it makes it sound like I have connections, but this guy dropped off the face of the earth, and we have not been able to contact him for 4 years. So no connections here. But that was my first session. Was I went and recorded the song on my album Borders. So if you were to like listen to it, Borders is the oldest song recorded for the album because that's from 2016.
And how was it recording your first thing? Were you nervous or was it fine or how'd that go?
Luckily, Borders is not a very vocally demanding song. I think in total, my voice goes to about 3 different notes. So it's not very hard. So I was quite comfortable, and there were nerves because I actually did my first recording session, I think, before even my first con.
Going back to furry cons, you mentioned, of course, you normally perform, or often you perform at furry cons. For those, do you write special material for those, or do you perform music that you have already wrote?
Up until my album came out in February this year, up until that point, everything was kind of unreleased to that extent. So if I performed something I might have written several years ago, it would be the first time I'd ever performed it publicly because I didn't have that body of work at that point. So for me, a lot of these songs are quite older and like I know them like the back of my hand, but everyone has just been learning them for the last 2 to 3 months now. So when I perform, I do like to throw in a special song or two. At TFF, I performed 2 songs in my set that I'd never done anywhere else, which was The Hike and Sakura. At that point, I'd never performed anywhere. But then I would later perform Sakura a week later, again at Vancouver.
I was just remembering, I watched her set at TFF, or one of the sets, and I remembered some of those songs. And I think I remember you saying they were pretty new. So there you go.
What exactly is a civet?
I usually describe them. I try to relate them as much as possible to what you already know. So I like to say that it's like a weasel, hyena, cat, because it's like got the look of a weasel. It's kind of the size of a large cat, not like a lion, but like a large medium cat. And then it's like got hyena markings. It's related to hyenas too. So that's sort of how I try to describe them. That was the theme of my newest YouTube video. About Furry Omegle Night was we like to do different themes for each video. Like last week was like European tour because for some reason everyone I paired up with on Omegle was from Europe. But this week it was what is a civet, because I explain it like 8 times in the video.
And on that note, what is a Cassidy?
Cassidy is what happens when a kid born in 1998 grows up watching music video countdowns from the early 2000s featuring many singers wearing midriff and dancing and singing, while then also watching Disney's Robin Hood on repeat. And then it's just, what if we combined these together? And then, you get a pop aesthetic furry.
So it's much easier to say Cassidy than all of that. I understand. That's very
it's actually an acronym.
So what social media can we find you on and check out your stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question, Taebyn. Thank you so much for asking.
No problem.
I am most active on Twitter. I'm very easy to reach. I'm easy to find. Like, it's really just Google my name, Cassidy Civet, or Cassidy the Civet. I'm on Twitter the most. Then YouTube is where I'm trying to post more videos, and it seems to be doing pretty good over there. So I'm going to keep that up. That's where all my music videos are going to go too, like the animated music video that I'm currently directing for my song, Let Your Heart Take Flight. So that's going to be cool.
That was one you did at TFF too, right?
At TFF, I actually showed the sort of the storyboard version of it. So I premiered the very, very rough video, but it's still being animated right now. But that was the first time anyone saw it. As of right now, it's exclusive to my Patreon supporters, which I'm also on Patreon.
Good segue into that.
Thank you. And then my music is on everything: Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, Amazon, whatever. I'm on TikTok too if you're like 15 and you use that.
Yeah,
I think I'm on most things. Just Google me, and my name is the same everywhere.
Going back to the furries, what do you find most appealing about furries?
Furry is by far and away the most creative fandom, I think, because we exist separate and distinct from essentially any and every property. We're sort of an amalgamation of this like historical human tendencies to put like human characteristics onto different things. So we're not based around something like Star Trek or whatever like that. We are just a collection of, what if the fox could smile or something? What if the lion was like singing and stuff? So it was just all that put together, and that's why there's so much uniqueness here. And that's why I really like furry, is because it's possibly the best form of self-expression out there, because since forever, humans have used animals to tell stories and stuff. And so this is just the logical extreme of that.
Just like you're saying, we're not basing it on something that already exists. Like, I don't know, the Three Bears or something. I mean, we're doing our own thing. There's Bugs Bunny and everything like that, but we're still kind of doing our own thing and stuff.
We create the content we consume in this fandom for the most part, which is not something many fandoms can say, right? Like, I used Star Wars as an example because that was kind of quiet until Disney brought the property, and then they were all excited, like, ooh, more stuff is coming.
I want to dress up like an Ewok.
That could be furry adjacent, but
True.
I find that like that stuff almost has a different tone to it, because like I know some of the younger furs, they start going to anime cons first and then they go to furry, but I went to my first sort of fan expo thing just this year. After having gone to like over 10 furry conventions, I went to my first sort of fan expo that was more general. And I did not like it. I did not like the tone. I did not like the atmosphere. It was very corporate. I know that there are some cons out there. Most of them are non-profit, but I know that there's a couple that are for-profit. So I wonder if there would be a similar tone like that, because I know that the fan expo thing is not run by passionate fans of every single property that they have there, because there's so much, right? They're like company-based. So it's a very different feel. I always say that to people, like if you go to an anime or a fan event, it is not the same as a furry con, not even a little bit.
I haven't been to like many other events besides fur cons, but just from what I know of them, I can definitely believe and agree with that. True.
I've been to a couple of Comic Cons, and that's very corporate.
A lot less personal, a lot more like cold, I guess. Like there weren't even water stations, I think. Like it was so like, do you want to spend $200 on this replica jacket from this obscure property? If not, well, there's the door. No panels, nothing of any sort of interaction.
Makes me want to stay in the fandom, so maybe I would.
Well, I'm glad you weren't thinking about going anywhere, Taebyn.
Yeah, no, I don't think so anyway. But I'm just a pup, so really, I don't really know what my fluffy brain thinks anyway all the time. So who really
Isn't it
knows?
Like it's just tennis balls.
It's just
there's a lot of that, let me tell you. So as we mentioned, you mentioned you live up in Canada. Is there anything different about Canadian furries, do you think?
I've thought about this a lot because I'm a huge like sort of data nerd. I'm not in any sort of like statistics field. I just like looking at charts and graphs and whatever, and I memorize a lot of that information. So like having been to Vancouver and Furry, comparing that to, which is in Edmonton, by the way, and then comparing that to Further Confusion in San Jose, Texas Furry Fiesta, and then Midwest Fur Fest, which are the three, and Furvana, but there's like 300-400 people, not very huge, not really comparable in that way. Much more regional too, right? The smaller the con is, the more likely it is to be people of that state or of that general area. What I've noticed in the Canadian cons is there's not a whole lot different in terms of the content. Though I've had friends comment that they found the panels at the Canadian cons better than the panels at American cons, which is interesting. And I don't know if I should say if I agree with that, but part of me kind of does.
Okay.
I mean, at TFF and at MFF and even FC, I actually was like definitely underwhelmed by the variety of panels and such.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There's actually a panel that I run at Vancouver and also at Furry, and I was surprised that no one was running it at FC, but then at MFF there were 6 different versions of this panel, and then at TFF there was also none except for mine. So I've run the only version of this panel at the last like 3 cons that I've been at when there was no one else.
And what was that panel?
That was the TF panel, the like transformation panel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Niche interest to be sure, but it was a safe for work panel. Just so it was safe. It was cool. We had a very wholesome discussion. But I was literally the only person to be running it at the last 3 cons I was at FC, at TFF, and at VF. I was the only person running it. So with Canadian cons, I think there's also maybe a little bit more transparency, because I feel like if I wanted to track down the board members, say, of these cons to give them feedback, I feel like it's easier here than it is down there, but I do know more people here. So like I know who to ask, but like for FC, I don't know who the chair is. I don't know who's on the board, even though they kept us on stage during the closing ceremonies talent show thing. I was in suit. I don't know. I could barely see anything.
Well, Cassidy, so thanks for coming on our show. I know that you have things you have to get going to. So is there anything you'd like to share with our 1, maybe 2 listeners now before you go?
If we're lucky, 2, yeah.
Well, one of them's me.
Aw.
Oh, well, okay. Oh, so yeah, to our other listener, what would you like to share?
I'd say keep an eye on me and what I'm working on, because I've got a lot of cool stuff coming. Quarantine has upped my productivity a little bit. I have been feeling the overwhelming societal anxiety like everyone else has, but I've tried to be more productive. I've got one project I would like to announce, but I need to make sure that I have more of the parties involved confirmed before I say anything. It will be really cool. And it will play into what you said regarding like furry music. So this will be potentially like really, really cool. 2021 could be some interesting announcements for that too. I'd recommend people watch my Twitter or announcements, because there's stuff coming and I can't say a lot of it yet, but it will become clearer as the months go by.
Clear as the months and your eyes open. And it's good to keep your eyes open, because if you don't, you run into things. I know that happens to me like on a daily basis, and I have to remind myself, don't run around with my eyes closed. So I'm still working on that too. So I understand how difficult that can be.
Well, thanks for coming on our show. And maybe when you're ready to release stuff, or when other stuff comes out, you can come back on and tell all our listener about it.
All our listener.
All our listener.
All our listener. So
I like it.
All right.
Great. Well, thank you, Cassidy, so much. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
That was a lot. That was educational. So really, there is no Czechoslovakia anymore.
We found that out.
We found that out. Imagine
Czechia?
that.
Was that what it was? Czechia?
Czechia? Yeah, Czechia. Czechia.
Yeah, Czech, yeah.
Czechia.
You want some money? You mean the Czech? Yeah.
So what have you been watching on TV this week?
So yeah, I've been watching Young Sheldon, and he's pretty annoying, but it's a pretty good show. The other thing I've been watching was I've been going back and watching the old Police Squad with Leslie Nielsen.
Oh, wow.
Have you ever watched that?
Yes.
I mean, I've seen all those like a million times, but I haven't think, I want to watch those again. So that's what one of the things I've been watching too.
I have Amazon Prime, and so I've been watching the show Hunters.
Hunters. I haven't heard that.
Very, very intense.
It's not in houses. It's intense.
So it takes place in the 70s, and it's about Jewish Nazi hunters.
Oh, well, yeah, that sounds a little intense.
It's very intense. And it's usually I can watch one episode, maybe 2 a night, but it's a really well done show. And then I also started watching a show called Solar Opposites, another creation by the creators of Rick and Morty.
Oh, okay. Is it similar to Rick and Morty, the same way that American Dad is very similar to Family Guy for obvious reasons?
Yes, very similar. So it's like Rick and Morty in space, I guess,
Okay.
So I wanted to mention to you, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about how you had watched Beast Stars.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And I did a little research, and they are renewed for season number 2.
Oh, that's exciting. Really, I hadn't heard that.
And they are now going to be a stage play in Japan.
Really? That is kind of shocking.
Isn't it, though? So,
that's not what I expected you to say just now. No.
Well, there you go.
I mean, in Japan, they kind of do things like that, though. So,
well, I mean, every city has its own mascot. So, of course,
Yeah, of course. Interesting. When is that supposed to happen?
It's in the works right now. I think it's supposed to be released just before season 2 comes out. I think the play's going to start. So
I bet it'll probably be online then. Can check that out.
Probably.
Well, that's exciting. I'm looking forward to season 2 anyway, for sure.
And now it's time for Furries in the News.
Furries in the News. That's similar to Pigs in Space. Pigs in Space. But instead it's Furries in the... I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore.
So there's a new anthropomorphic series coming to Netflix.
Really? What is that?
It's called Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, it's called Brand New Animal.
Sounds very creative.
Right, and it's about a girl who discovers her beast side and
Ooh.
going to a populated city called place populated by beastmen.
Ah, okay. Sounds
Yeah.
interesting. So this
Um,
is called what again?
it's called Brand New Animal.
Brand
Brand
new.
Brand
Brand
New
new.
Animal. Yeah. From
And
their announcement, it says, throughout history, humans have been at odds with beastmen, a species capable of changing shape due to their genetic beast factor. Because of
ooh,
this conflict, beastmen have been forced into hiding. Anima City serves as a safe haven for those oppressed
a
individuals to live free from human interference. During a
human
festival,
interference.
I know, during a festival celebrating the town's 10th anniversary, Michiro Kejimori,
Kate Tamori.
sounds Japan
It
ish,
does.
a human who suddenly turned into a tanuki. I don't know what a tanuki is.
I can comment on that when you're done reading.
Okay. She turns into a tanuki, finds that Anima City is a far cry from paradise. After witnessing an explosion in the square, she is confronted by Ogami. Shiru Ogami,
Not Ogami.
a seemingly indestructible wolf and sworn protector of all beastmen. As they pursue the criminals behind the bombing, the two discover that Machuri is anything but ordinary and look to investigate her mysterious past and uncanny abilities.
Uncanny.
Could she turn out to be the missing link between humans and beastmen?
I
It's coming to
don't.
Netflix on June 21st.
Dude, wow, this
Wow.
sounds actually pretty exciting. I think I'm gonna have to check this out.
What's a tanuki?
So Tanuki is a Japanese raccoon thing that is a mythical raccoon thing in Japanese culture that embodies bad decisions. Basically,
Okay.
often you'll see a Tanuki wandering around with this big, huge bottle of like mead because they're drinking all day and everything.
Sounds like my kind of thing.
If you read about Tanuki in Japanese culture, you can find out more all about it. It has quite a rich history.
A rich history.
Somehow, history made lots of money, and now it's rich.
In other news, did you know that there is a global furry television network?
I did not know that.
Right. I didn't know that either.
How long has that been around?
Apparently since February 2019.
Oh, really? Okay, so it's pretty new, but yeah, I haven't heard of it.
It's based in Singapore. They have had no shows yet.
Well, maybe there's a reason I haven't heard of it.
There was something came across my email feed about they wanted a survey and they wanted a survey to different furries about different things. And it was the Global Furry Television Network. And I was like, what the heck is that? So I looked
Yeah.
it up and I found out about it. Their website, the last thing they talked about was the Down Home Fur Con.
Down Home Food Con
Right.
in
Sounds like
Singapore?
in Singapore. Yeah. It was a virtual con that took place
Oh,
1st and 2nd of this month in May.
okay.
They had some pretty good numbers. I mean, they had over 1,800 recorded attendees.
Okay, cool.
Lots of views on Twitch and 27 panels and Discord members and showcased artists. So it was a pretty well attended con, I guess, virtually. But I don't
Yeah,
know.
these virtual cons, I semi went to one, quote unquote, went to one, the PNW, the Pacific Northwest one that happened recently. And I mean, I guess a lot of furs had a good time and everything. I was pretty busy. I didn't have much time to really participate, but I'm really still not sure how virtual cons work. I'm going to actually have to participate in one apparently to actually know what's happening.
Yeah, I haven't participated in one either. But if it's like a virtual meeting, you're sitting in one place. So I'm not. I don't know. Hard to say.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a new world out there. I'm going to have to experience myself or something.
And one other thing I wanted to talk about before we move on to our closing segment is
Move.
there is a furry photo hosting site.
Furry photo hosting site.
Yes, called
Sounds good.
furtrack.com.
Oh yeah, yeah, I've heard of this, I think.
You're on it.
I'm on it.
You
This
are
pup
on it.
is on it. This is an
Yes.
internet thing?
It's an internet thing. If you go to it and you type in your name,
Uh-huh.
you will find pictures of you.
Pictures of this pup. I'm
Yes.
so excited to see pictures.
Yes. And I actually loaded some of the pictures I took up to furtrack.com.
Oh, you did? Okay. So it's
Yeah.
It's a kind of free thing where just a whole bunch of furs can just go and just upload videos or pictures and share the wealth, as it were. In one of our pupcasts, I remember I was talking about, well, we were talking about just helping each other out and expanding the furdom, and how there's all these great resources and things people are doing. And this is just another one of those, help bring us furs together.
I think the pandemic has caused a lot of furs to pique their furiosity and to boost their creativity.
Yes.
And people have time now, and furs have time now to do these things that they've been talking about, much like us with our podcast.
I was just thinking, like, well, look at us. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, we always like to end our pod with a little thing called This or That.
This or That.
Where I ask Taebyn one or the other, and he has to tell me what he prefers. So we're going to start with taco or burrito.
Oh, my cow. That is a tough one. I mean, last week I remember you had some tough ones, but yeah, you're really you're killing me here.
You're killing me, Smalls.
You're killing me. You're killing me, Fluffs. I think I'm just going to have to say it kind of depends on my mood, not my barked, but my mood. Not a cow or anything, but okay. Oh my Lord. I mean, I guess it depends on the type of taco. I mean, if it's like a total ground beef, wonderful seasoned taco and stuff, that's pretty good. And put some pepper jack on there and some potato sauce, some nice hot sauce. That's pretty good. But then, I mean, really, anything in a tortilla is pretty much possum. Like, you could put a toaster in a tortilla and I'm loving it. So, and then you put like chicken and like cheeses and stuff in the tortilla, and like, oh, I'm so excited. I am so hungry right now.
I have actually put a Costco hot dog in a tortilla.
Oh, really? I've not done that yet. How is that?
I didn't have any buns, and but I had a whole bunch of tortillas. I was like, well, I'll just roll it up in a tortilla. It worked great.
Did you put like ketchup and mustard and stuff in there too?
Absolutely. Yep.
How did it turn out?
It tasted like fine.
Really?
Yeah.
Now I'm really curious. I'm going to have to do that sometime.
Our next one, speaking of bread, white or wheat?
White. Although I know wheat is more healthy, and I guess there are certain times when I feel like all the grain and nuts and stuff are kind of fun, but really I have to go white.
Okay. All right. So cake or pie?
Probably have to go cake. Although, I mean, there's some pretty good pie out there. Like, I really like apple pie. Those are pretty good. But overall, I'd have to go cake, definitely.
All right. And finally, plane or train?
Plane or train? Is it a plane train? Or is it a trained plane?
Ooh.
Ooh. And if I were in a restaurant, I could also bus the table. Okay. I just go ahead and discard that for now. Okay. Anyway, yeah, right. So plane or train? Probably have to go train. It's not that I'm afraid of planes, although the takeoff is the only scary part for me for whatever reason. But planes can be just very time consuming and a lot of work. So I'd probably have to go train.
Okay. All right. Well, that concludes our show today. Thanks for coming along, Taebyn.
Well, thank you. It was great to be here. Thanks for having me, Bearly.
It's always a great time, as we've said before.
Can't wait till next week.
Right. And if you're listening, our one listener, or if you shared it with friends, share this with more friends so that we get our listenership up.
So we can have more than one. Yeah,
absolutely. And if you'd like to help support, go to Buy Me a Coffee on our website. You can link to that and help support the show. No obligation whatsoever, but you can totally check that out. And with that, I say everybody have a great Memorial Day weekend. This is coming out on Memorial Day weekend. So
Furlandia was supposed to start today. Anyway, but I think every fur's, we're still talking to each other and just trying to make the best of it. So
that's right.
Anyway,
that's right. All right. Well, bye everybody.
Bye, Bark.
Bearly Furcasting is an Injured Nerves studio production. All opinions expressed here are those of Taebyn and Bearly, and neither received any commercial compensation for their opinions. The Furcast is recorded and edited by me, Bearly Normal, aka Mike Began. Opening, interstitial, and closing music by Shane Ivers through silvermansound.com. Taebyn can be reached on social media at TaebynPup on YouTube and Twitter.